All right, who's our next victim out here? Good morning from Jeff's Little Engine Service. I'm out here in the junkyard today, and I need a project for the day. So I'm going to choose one of these mowers to work on. I chose this one. It's one of these old Scotts mowers. They made quite a few of them. Someone gave me this mower last year. It's been sitting out here all winter. It has a 6.5 horsepower Intek engine, OHV from Briggs and Stratton. One of the first things I want to do is just make sure this thing had oil in it, and it does, so that's a good sign. Seems like it has compression, so I think this will be our next patient right here. Wheel this thing over here a little closer to my tools. There we go. We'll fix it right here. There's my chicken coop, by the way. So one more check I want to do real quick before I get too invested in this lawnmower. I want to make sure the engine's not shot. So, if we get to the air filter here, this is a 5/16. Definitely going to need a new one of those. But I have some starting fluid here. And I'm just going to spray down into the carburetor throat. And hopefully this thing will sputter like it's trying to start. So what that tells me is this engine's good. We just have a plugged up carburetor, which is usually the case after a lawnmower sits for so long. So I don't know what kind of condition the gas is, or even if there is any gas in the gas tank. But one thing I know is that it needs to be cleaned out. Anytime you're cleaning out a carburetor, you're going to want to clean out the fuel tank also and inspect the fuel line. We have no idea what kind of condition this gas is in, so we need to start out fresh. And I'm just going to take off the fuel line here to drain the gas tank. I looked inside and there's not much gas in there, so twist. You can see we have a lot of what looks like oil blow by here all over the engine. When you're dealing with an overhead valve engine, usually where that's coming from is this overhead valve cover. See how loose those were? So tighten those back up. I think there's 4 of them. And that should help with all that oil leaking. This mower is so gross and dirty, I think I'm going to clean it up before I work on it. Looks like brand new now, doesn't it? Cleaned up pretty good. Before I take this carburetor off, I just want to take a look and see what the inside of the float bowl looks like. There's a 1/2 inch nut that holds it on, or bolt. My socket's not going to fit, so what you have to have, there's not much room here, so you have to have one of these. Get it up in there in the right position. This is just to avoid from taking the whole carburetor off. But you can reach it if you have one of these. Just want to see what's in there before I get too deep into things. If we have to take the carburetor off, we're going to have to replace the gasket behind the primer bulb. So I'm trying to avoid from having to take the carburetor off. We'll see how dirty things are in here. Okay. Let's give it a tap. Looks like the O-ring stayed on the carburetor. That's good. You see what's in there? There's definitely sediment in there. We're going to want to clean all that out. The inside of the carburetor is pretty clean. That's a bonus. I'm glad to see that. That means that this procedure might work. I'm going to blow some air in here and create a vacuum, and you'll see that gas shoots out of the carburetor. I don't think I need to replace the fuel line. So this is how I'm going to clean it out. And if you look, the bolt that holds on your float bowl is actually your main jet, so you're going to want to make sure all these holes are cleared out. Very important. And this is what usually gets plugged and is the reason why your lawnmower won't start. This hole here is usually what gets plugged, so I'll poke some wire down through there and make sure it's all cleared out. It looks like it's plugged from here. Just have some wire here and I'll poke that down through the hole. And it was plugged. I looked a little closer. I think we're good now. So now that I'm sure this component, the main jet, isn't plugged and that the float bowl is good and clean, we're ready to go back together. Don't forget your gasket for your main jet. See how clean that main jet is now? That's how you want it. It's very important to make sure the inside of the carburetor is cleaned out too. Otherwise you're just going to get the problem reoccurring. So luckily this carburetor is good and clean. I didn't really have to do too much to it. It was just that main jet that was plugged, which is very common. Just make sure everything is nice and clean when you put it back together. I mean spotless. This can be kind of hard getting this bolt started again, but you can do it. Just be patient. Alright, I want to keep the float bowl up there tight. Don't forget the gasket, so I don't let any stuff in there. Alright, you don't want to go too tight. Tight enough to seal it. Ah, there you go. Let's do this. Three pumps, we'll see about that. One for good luck. That's right, I gotta take out that nasty air filter. Yep, it's not gonna run with that air filter. 1, 2, 3. trying. 2, 3. So, one thing I noticed is that spark plug is really nasty. So we should replace it. See if that's has something to do with what's going on here. This is a 5/8 socket. And indeed, the spark plug is in pretty rough shape. We've got a lot of goo on this thing. And it's an auto light. Auto light sucks. So this is what the old spark plug looks like, and what the new spark plug looks like. I always recommend NGK spark plugs, and this is an NGK BKR 5E. This is an auto light piece of crap. Yeah, it seems to run pretty good. So I'll replace this nasty old air filter, and we will call this a fixed lawnmower. Yeah, baby.